Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie and today is Top 5 Wednesday. If you are new to Top 5 Wednesday, I will link the Goodreads group down in the description below. This week's topic is books you didn't get to in 2018, so I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 books that I wanted to read in 2018 and I just didn't get to them. Now, before we got the list of topics for this month, I wanted to make a video like this anyway, and every year I make a TBR list of all the books that I want to read in that year, and most of the time I never actually complete that TBR, so there are definitely a lot of books on that list that I wanted to read and I just didn't get to. So in this video, I will be giving you my top 5, but I will also be sharing with you the other books that I wanted to read this year and I just never got to them. There are definitely books that can make it on this list, but I have high hopes that I'm going to read them and finish them before the end of the year is up. So these are all the books that I know I won't get to before the end of the year. For number 5, I have The Darkest Legacy by Alexandra Bracken. This is the 4th book in the Darkest Minds series, which it was only supposed to be a trilogy, but Alex decided to extend it to a 4-book series. This is that book. It came out this year. I was very excited for it, and I was leaping for joy when I got it in the mail, but I never read it. A big reason why I never picked up this book and read it is because I still haven't finished Through the Dark by Alexandra Bracken, which is a bind-up of short stories and novellas. And one of these stories is about the main character in this book, and so I felt like I had to read this before I could read this, but I wasn't really in the mood to read this one, so I just never actually read this book that I was very excited about. For number 4, I have Smoke in the Sun by Renee Ahdieh. Renee Ahdieh is one of my favorite authors. I love her Wrath in the Dawn duology. I read the first book in this duology, A Flame in the Mist, this time last year, and I really liked it. So I pre-ordered this book immediately. I was very excited to have it, and I got it, and I never read it, obviously, because it's on this list. I definitely want to get to this one, but it's just not at the top of my priority list. There's definitely a lot of books that I really want to read. And as much as I love the first book in this duology, I don't really remember much of what happened, and I did really like the characters at the time I read the book, but now I just really don't remember them that much. I don't really have a strong inclination to follow the rest of their stories. I definitely want to, but it's just not a priority for me right now, which is why I still haven't read this one. Next, I have Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is one that I went crazy excited when I found out that this series was getting extended, and I still haven't read it. Of course, I pre-ordered it. I wanted to read it as soon as it came out, but if I'm remembering correctly, a lot of books were released at the same time as this one and they took priority over it, and I just never got around to reading this one, even though I'm really excited to read it. The ending of the 3rd book in what was then a trilogy was very well wrapped up, but at the same time, it opened up a lot of new stuff that could be explored, and I was very excited when I found out that Tahereh Mafi was expanding this series, and I definitely want to get to this one soon, but there's just so many books that I really want to read, and I'm definitely a mood reader, and I want to be in the mood to read a dystopian, or else I'm not going to enjoy this one as much as I want to, and that is why I just haven't picked it up and read it yet. But I am definitely going to make it a priority to read in 2019. For number 2, I have the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. This is one that I received for Christmas last year, and I definitely wanted to read it, but I still haven't picked it up. I know that I will absolutely love this series, especially because my favorite genre is fantasy. Brandon Sanderson is referred to as the king of fantasy. I know I will really like these books, but honestly, it's not even the size that intimidates me. It's just, I know once I start these books, I won't want to stop reading, and I want to just fly through them as quick as possible, and I know I will basically have to put my life on hold, and I'm not really at a place in my life where I'm willing to do that. and that's why I still haven't read this series, but I definitely want to. Like I said, I know I'm gonna love it. I just need to pick them up and read them, and if I have to stop in between books, or if I have to stop and can't read the books in one sitting, it'll be fine. It'll be okay if I can't read these back to back. It will be perfectly okay and life will go on. But I'm just one of those types of people that I binge, whether it's TV or reading. I binge series, and I know that I will want to just jump from one to the next, and I really will have to put my life on hold, and I need to get over that so that I can read this series, and that way it can become one of my favorites, which I know it probably will. And for number 1, I have the Bloodline series by Richelle Mead. I love the Vampire Academy series by Richelle Mead. This is the companion spin-off series to Vampire Academy, and I definitely really like the characters that are in this book, and I know I will really like it. I did actually start this one at the beginning of the year, or maybe it was even in 2017 when I started reading this one. I'm about halfway through and I just never finished it. And this, yeah, I think this series has been on my yearly TBR for 2 years in a row now, and I still haven't read it. I've probably owned it for that long as well, and I just haven't read it. I know I will really like it. I was really enjoying this first book, but there were so many books that were coming out, and I was really distracted from reading this one because as new releases were coming and I was very excited about those books, I would put down this one to read those, and then I ended up just never finishing this book, and I definitely want to. Surely to goodness I can finish this series next year. So those are the top 5 books that I wanted to read this year and didn't get around to reading. But here are the other books that were on my yearly TBR that I didn't read, and these are in no particular order. I have Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken. This is one that one of my best friends bought me for my birthday like 2 years ago, and I was very excited to get my hands on it, but I was in college at the time, and my course load and just my volunteer activities were too much, and I didn't have time to read this one like I wanted to, and then I just never got around to reading it, and I definitely want to. The more time that passes since I read the first book, I have less interest to read the second one, even though I definitely want to. I just don't really remember all that happened, and I know if I just picked this one up and started reading, I would remember everything and things would come back to me and all that, but there's just so many books that I want to read. I never got around to reading this one, and I definitely want to, especially because one of my best friends bought it for me, and it really is special to me because she bought it for me, because I'm very sentimental like that, and I definitely want to get to it, but I just never got around to reading it this year. Next, I have Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, I think, and I have the first 2 books in this series, and I really wanted to read this one just so I could watch the movie, honestly. I also wanted to read the book because I heard that it was really good, but honestly I wanted to read this so that I felt okay with watching the movie. But it's not a priority read for me at all. I did want to make it a priority to read this year, but I'm not a huge contemporary reader, especially not adult contemporary, and I'm honestly not very thrilled about reading this one, but I do want to eventually, and by the looks of it, it looks really easy to read. It looks pretty short. Just kidding, it's like 400 pages. I do want to get to this one, but I was spoiled for the ending for this book, and it doesn't make me not want to read it, but also because I know what's going to happen, I don't feel like I have to read it as soon as possible. We'll see when I eventually get around to reading it. Who knows, I may read it next year, I may not. Next, I have The Host by Stephanie Meyer. This one has been on my TBR for years because Poland Bananas Books, Christine, talked about this in one of her videos a long time ago, and she was talking about how much she really liked this book, and of course it made me want to read it because she was, at the time, probably one of 3 booktubers that I watched at the time. I have seen the movie of this one and I did enjoy it. Honestly though, the book is so long that it kind of makes me nervous because there were definitely times in the movie where not a lot was happening and it was kind of boring at points. So in book form, with it being this long, it's kind of put me off from reading it because I'm scared that I'm going to get bored and not like it as much. But who knows? I'm sure the book is better than the movie. I definitely want to find out. So I'm going to try to make it a priority to read next year. I don't really know when I'll get to it though. Next, I have Prodigy and Champion by Marie Lu. These are book 2 and 3 of the Legend trilogy, and this is a dystopian series from several years ago. I did read the first book. I thought it was just okay, even though many people were raving about it and they loved it, and I just didn't really feel the same way. I did like it. I did think it was a good book, but it didn't blow me away, and I have been reading this book for about 3 years now. I still haven't made it through. I don't really have a lot of inclination to pick it up and finish it, even though I do want to eventually read the rest of the trilogy. It's just, I didn't like it enough for me to just like, I've got to read this book. It was more of like, I liked it, it was good, so if I don't have anything better to read, I'll pick this one up and finish it. And lastly, I have Dragonfly and Amber by Diana Gabaldon. This is the second book in the Outlander series, and I have been reading this one for a year and a half, and I do really like this series. It's definitely slow. It's an adult historical fiction time travel story, and it's mostly set in Scotland, which I really want to visit, so I love the settings of this series, even though this one takes place in France, which I also really want to visit France. So all around, it's just the settings are wonderful and perfect for me, but it definitely is slow. These books are super long. This one is almost 1,000 pages. I'm about halfway through, and at the time I was reading this book, it was honestly just too much for me to read it at once. Considering halfway through is roughly 500 pages, that was like a full book of not a lot happening, and even though I was enjoying it, I just couldn't push myself to finish the entire thing because I knew if I did, I would get in a reading slump. Honestly, at that time in my life, I was in a very low place to begin with, so I was kind of already in a reading slump anyway, and I just never ended up finishing this. I definitely want to. I've got about 500 pages left. I know I can do it. I know I'll like it. It's historical fiction, which isn't my go-to genre, so I just haven't felt inclined to pick it up and read the rest. I'll get to it eventually. I definitely will have to be in the mood to read this one because it is so slow, but hopefully I will finish it next year. So those were all the books on my 2018 TBR that I never ended up reading. Let me know in the comments down below which books you wanted to read this year and you never got around to. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content by me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!